Okay. So welcome everybody to our May microconference for Apereo, Community Conversations and Open Discussions on Openness. So just kind of a recap of some of the activity we've seen around these microconferences over the last 3 years now that we've been doing them. So we've had quite a bit of engagement. These numbers actually probably need a little bit of updating. I'm sure they're bigger now than they were when we put this slide together, but we've seen a lot of great response. And so it's been a great way to promote networking and get the word out about various projects. So we hope that if you enjoyed today's session, you will share it with your friends and come back for our next monthly conference. I'm Wilma Hodges. I'm the Sakai Community Manager, and I'm also welcoming you today on behalf of Apereo. I'm also the founder and principal consultant at Red Wolf Solutions. I do consulting for various open source projects. I would actually like to take just a quick moment to tell you about Apereo's newest project. It's a new incubating project that just started. I'm one of the project founders, so I'm taking a minute or two to kind of promote that. It's called LTI Forge, and it's about creating a community to share and develop open source LTI apps. We had talked to a lot of universities in the Sakai community or prior Sakai folks that had moved on to a different system, and a lot of them were developing things in silos that they really wanted to share, but there wasn't a good way to build some community around that. So that's what we're doing with LTI Forge, and as I said, it is brand new. We're just kind of getting launched. We just were accepted as a incubating project with Apereo, and our mission really is to, for folks that are filling those feature gaps in their LMS, whatever it might be, to make them open and adhere strictly to standards so that they can be interoperable and vendor neutral, and make sure that they, observe things like, security guidelines and accessibility and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in the project, the URL is down there below to our project website. And we are actually going to be doing a presentation on this. If you want to hear more about it, I'll paste the link in the chat. At the upcoming virtual conference for Sakai, which is next month, June 23rd, we're going to do a session on LTI Forge, and several of the folks founding the project will be talking about some of the apps that they plan to contribute to it. So it should be a pretty interesting session. It will be recorded. But if you're interested in attending the virtual conference, it's only $5 to attend, and it's completely online. So with that plug, I'll move on. So I'd also like to thank our sponsors for today's conference. Our microconference sponsor, JMA Consulting, provides City CRM services that handle all the registration and things for events like this. Big Blue Button offers us our meeting room. Blindside Networks supports us using Big Blue Button. And of course, the Apereo community, for all the folks attending or who are part of the community through a project or as a commercial member. We thank all of you for your support and participation. So if you would like to learn more about upcoming events, we do invite you to join our communications list so that you can get announcements about webinars or events that Apereo will be taking part in. So please sign up. It's in the footer of the apereo.org website. So that's where you can go to sign up for our news and events list. And without further ado, today's project is from HAX. We're going to be hearing about sustainable impact and innovation pipeline. We have a panel of folks that are going to be talking today about their experience and sharing information about this. So we have Bryan Ollendyke from Penn State. We have Bill Rose, who's also the HAX product owner, Dr. Jenny Frank, associate professor and HAX lab faculty, Dr. David Fusco, teaching professor and HAX lab faculty, Winston White, who is a lab intern, and I think we have a couple other student interns on the call that weren't on the slide, so I'm sure they'll be introducing them as they go. So if you have questions as we go, please feel free to type them into the chat. We may save some of those to the end. We're going to have about 10 minutes or so at the end of the hour for questions. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Bryan.
Right. So thank you for having us today, Apereo. Thank you all, everybody that's on the panel, and there's a couple other guests joining us. So we're here to talk about something that I feel like I've stumbled upon that is a great way to get contributors into your community, but also improve your institution's stability and value proposition as we move into an AI age where students need increasingly more experience coming out of college in order to find success in the marketplace. So this is called the Sustainable Impact and Innovation Pipeline. Now, Bill Rose, the product owner for HAX, wants to call this the SIIP. I don't even understand what that is. I just say SIP. It's like, I don't think SIP sounds cool, though. You're right, Bill. But said another way, this is the HAX community development model. So what are we talking about today or having conversations about or demoing? So I'm going to tell you what HAX is, and it's definitely not what happened to Canvas recently. It's a project onto itself. Then what is SIIP? And stories illustrating SIIP in action. So there'll be a lot of stories, a lot of asking questions of students and faculty that have participated in this process. Then Bill's going to cap this off with some pedagogical backing, discussion to say why does this actually work, and the research would suggest it does. And then some implications and Q&A with our panelists. So to get kicked off into things, and if you're in the slide deck, which I posted in the chat, you're going to see a lot of LinkedIn references here if you want to connect with people, students, especially afterwards. Students definitely love having connections into industry, so please do reach out to them. But so to start, what is HAX? So HAX is a project under the Apereo umbrella. It is an idea that started on a note card in 2015. And now I can confidently say I've dedicated the majority of my children's lives to working on this idea. So the goal of HAX is to provide ubiquitous web authoring. And by ubiquitous, I mean 99% invisible design. Much like the Google Sheet or Google Docs form that you're seeing here, right? We know what file menus are. I know I can go back to this button. I know who's currently here. It's at a glance. There wasn't advanced training to understand how to use this tool. We want that for web development and putting any information on the internet. To be honest, I was going to say your courses, but courses as well. HAX is standards-based, built on a solid foundation that's based on WC3 standard tools. It's developer-friendly. It's extendable by others. It's easy to remix and distribute. And we have pillars of our community saying this must be treating the web like it's a file format. I should be able to download a zip and work with it. It's very well abstracted, and it's got a growing army of contributors. All of these are really fun words that don't tell you anything about what it is, right? So how HAX works is it's effectively a text editor. Text editor and a content management system where you have a full website. What makes it unique in the marketplace of options in this space is that it's not what you see is what you sort of maybe kind of get, but mostly it's a literal WYSIWYG. You are actually modifying the DOM or document object model with these HTML tags. But by adopting web standards, when you go to modify this, it's not a bunch of div soup. It's not some Gutenberg block nonsense. It's not tokens that are popular in like a WordPress ecosystem or Drupal historically. It's a literal HTML tag. And what HAX does is provides the definitions for building an authoring form that directly maps to that HTML tag. So what you end up writing when you drag and drop blocks is HTML. Highly semantic HTML that you didn't have to have any technical knowledge in order to do. This keeps content separate from our design. And to date, we've got roughly 640 plus individual HTML tags that we've open sourced. Every part of this interface is a web component, whether it's the little character in the side, whether it's the individual buttons, the icons, this form, or the media that you're placing in the page. So HAX powers online courses at Penn State. That's why it was originally developed in the College of Arts and Architecture. But it kind of just makes the internet easier to make. And so it's expanded out rapidly from that original, hey, let's just make this for online courses context. So we're able to make websites with HAX, portfolios. It's really great for publishing OER. My course looks exactly like the website that I made when I was 19 years old by design, to illustrate some of the visual flexibility of this. It's also used by the university library for putting old XML-based plays on the internet, and online courses, of course, in multiple colleges at Penn State. But you sort of have to see HAX to understand what Ubiquity brings and why this is so different. So as a demonstration of just raw capability, I am going to live migrate a site from Pressbooks, which is a popular WordPress-based tool. Then I'm going to modify it in place. I'm going to take content from this doc file. I don't know if any of you have used document files before, Word or Google Docs, but literally everyone has. And so what we've found is that why teach people HAX or the internet or the web in general? Meet them at the tools that they already know how to use those formats, and build web from there. Then I'm going to download, remix it, do a bunch of stuff. So let's see what it is. So this is hax.psu.edu. You can learn more about the open source tools that are powering this, or documentation. There's examples down below of other sites. But when we log into HAX 26, which just launched yesterday as a result of the Sustainable Impact Pipeline, it looks like a familiar tool, because we don't want web development to feel complicated. We want someone to say, I want an art portfolio, select it, and now I have an art portfolio. It's populated with content to make me think that this is an artist portfolio. I want to be able to touch the CMS in simple ways. Like if I want to change the design aesthetic in some small way, like let's say that we make this very violent red, which Alyssa's going to be on in a bit. Love the names that you've picked for these things, Alyssa. Beatles yellow, obviously. I mean, I love the Beatles, right? That I want to be able to make that change, and then it's reflected instantly. So HAX main power is in modifying the contents of this page, right? This is a heading. I could make textual edits, change it to an H3, pull in a, all right, nothing crazy there, right? We're expecting to be able to do those sorts of operations with HAX, but it's a literal what you see is the thing that you're obtaining. Now, it's not going to let me take a photo, is it? It's probably not going to let me. Let's see if it lets me take a photo of myself. Oh, there we go. All right. So if I want to be creative on the internet, I shouldn't have to think, how do I get a photo there? It should just be there. And what's happening when that takes place is it's uploading this file and then referencing it in this component, which then the component takes over and presents it in this consistent way. So it's a literal what I see is what I now have. But the content presented there is abstract from the design that we're presenting it in, unlike other content management systems, right? So I have this page. You saw me make it. I wrote really complicated HTML right there. And what I can do is I can now show you that page if we were an online course. Or if we wanted to look kind of like a major institution, or a different style of that institution, or one of our older online course designs, or a slight variant, or, oh, that one, yeah, let's do that now. Accessible red, sure, cool. That our content is abstract from the design layer. All right, so now let's take a Pressbook site and do something with it. So normally this is a huge operation. We as a team, we got to get together. We got to get together with the Pressbooks engineers. We got to say, okay, how do we export these formats and get it to be something that we can even play with in HAX? Or we can copy the URL and then we can at the button. If I can find, oh, there's the Pressbooks address. So I'm actually going to open this in another window because I've already imported a Pressbooks site. So I'm going to paste the link to the Pressbooks site. And I did this previously with this Everyone Needs to Eat, Introduction to Food Security. So when I point to that address, it then leverages the open APIs that are exposed by Pressbooks and pulls in an identical copy, but moves it over to HAX CMS. So this is all of these pages, but these pages now could be delivered in Markdown or JSON, or I don't need to go to YAML, no one cares about YAML, or XML, or just the pure HTML of this page, or with the entire site design. And all of those things that I just showed happen automatically with HAX. That makes us LLM first very easily. I can point AI to these things, as Dave will show, and it understands using the site as private context rather rapidly. Oh, got my social psychology site going. So it's identify the structure, leverage their APIs, and now hopefully, oh, good, I have social psychology migrated here. So now we can do the comparison of which tool do I like more. And then I can find, oh, there's that character that we need to make sure we account for in coding. So I won't say it's 100% perfect, but there's that image. It's referenced over on Unison. I could swap that image out, make some changes to it, right? But now I'm not editing HTML, I'm editing via HAX. So if I needed to delete that, whoops, I didn't mean to, right? I have those abilities. So another common pattern we have is bringing content from somewhere else. So this is that docx file I have. We have faculty members that write content in that all the time. And so why even learn HAX when you could just pull in an entire lesson? All right, this identified videos in the content and automatically turned them into our video player, which then references, or works with YouTube. All right, so there's YouTube files, right? So it's not to eliminate your usage of HAX, but it is to dramatically reduce it so that you don't even have to teach people what the system is. Now, I've got that. It's a site that exists. I've got social psychology, and now I can download this site because HAX is effectively a file format. And so we have the website built in a very consistently structured way. This is all the page content. These are all the different additional formats of that content. But now I could go to this on my local machine. What's this called? Social psychology. And using HAX locally, call that back up. So this is the HAX editing interface, all the same tools, but now working off of my local machine because I have to put a heading in there. Version, and then we're going to make heading, right? But then we need to add an exam. And so we need to make sure that in this exam, right, that we're asking people some questions in context of the material, and right, so that then we save, and then we've got our little fun interaction where you can test people and see if they got that right. This is not real. Sure, try it again. Oh, we got it wrong, right? So I make my changes locally, and then I want to push these up for other people to see on the internet. So then we can use the HAX command line interface, which Winston worked on. And I could just say, I could go through and say, well, give me the whole site as Markdown. So there's that entire course that was out on Pressbooks, then on hax.psu.edu, then downloaded to my computer, now as Markdown, so that AI can skim off it, learn from it, use it as private context. Or we can publish this. So let's see. Let's publish it to Surge, which is a static site generating space. And we're going to call this Earthy HAX OG share or whatever. Okay. And so it's going to leverage the content delivery networks associated with HAX to publish just the files in question of the site. but then all the design assets are delivered globally. So it's, I mean, a site would actually be more than that overall file structure. But now this is out on a static publishing system known as Surge, and then I can go and throw this into Big Blue Button. Oh, I better put HTTPS. Like, it's a failed demo because it didn't have the initial thing there. All right, so that is ubiquity. Taking something, being able to manipulate it, move it between sources. I don't care what the format is. I want it on the internet. I want your voice on the internet without thinking about it, without learning anything. That is ubiquity. I want what we have with our phones, but for all web communications and traffic. So story time. How do we solve a big problem like that? Kind of been dreaming this and working on it for about 11 years now. Well, we had a big problem. And the pipeline and the stories we're about to express is what makes this possible. So talk about what SIIP is. I'm going to talk to some of the voices of HAX, people that have worked through this process. And some of them, I guarantee you right now, especially Jimmy, who got on the project in 2022, is going, holy crap, Bryan, what did you do in the last 6 months? Because he hasn't seen any of what I just demonstrated. So then we're going to talk to some faculty members with grants associated with HAX that are taking the platform and ecosystem even further. So when you have a complex story to tell, it's important to make an extremely complicated visual that no one can understand. And in this extremely complicated visual, which is usually its own talk, the only thing you need to know is that 2026 is out here and 2015 is back here where this idea came about. Everything in yellow is effectively an event, some, like, hey, I'm teaching ISD 402, or we collaborated with Red Hat, or Penn State Libraries adopted the platform, or by the way, we've held HAX camps at Penn State and Duke previously, things like that. And then across the top, these rocket launches are major innovations in platforms and pieces of the platform that we shipped. And there's a big gap when I just line this up right about here. And that gap formed because even though right here it says that we have a HAX product owner role, and down here it says we have a bunch of people working on this, we kind of had everybody post-pandemic leave. So at one point we had 4 full-time people working on this idea of being able to make the web ubiquitous and ease publishing for online courses. But what changed as to how we get all these rocket launches out here, even though at this uncanny valley, I am the only developer, and is illustrated by the red marks here, is I started to integrate my classroom teaching directly into the ecosystem. So everything in blue, and particularly right up to this point, this is all Penn State faculty staff effort. This is people whose job it is full-time to work on these things. And HAX was part of a larger initiative. It's not like we were just building this. We were delivering online courses for about 19 years at this point using other systems, including Elms, which is what this logo is. So HAX was a moonshot on top of Elms originally that is launched into its own orbit. But right around here is when we lost developers to, honestly, better jobs in industry, more opportunity. However, by making my classroom into something that contributes directly to the community, we've been able to scale exponentially as far as the amount of contributions. And this is something that I've started to call SIIP. So Sustainable Impact and Innovation Pipeline. Effectively, a student starts out taking my course or taking one of Dave's courses, and then by taking that course, they either participate in our club that we have associated, in the lab associated with it, or in other clubs that they're part of, and they contribute to HAX and learn about HAX and web development broadly through that process. So we've been doing this via independent studies after class because the classes I teach have to do with web development, which is super helpful when building a web platform. So people are either doing independent studies with members of HAX Lab or internships. We also have collaborations that have taken place with student clubs, right? Let's meet students where they're most passionate and interested outside of the classroom. So whether that's with Cybersecurity Club, which is now engaged in 2 long-form audits of the HAX ecosystem, identifying and helping to resolve 30 security vulnerabilities over the last 2 years, or whether that's with UXPA, User Experience Professional Association, in which members there who want to be future professionals in UX design, wait for it, apply those skills, but to HAX. Same with CCSO. Take these skills. We want to produce you to go out in the world to be an expert in this thing. Hey, here's this place that you can do that. So contributions in HAX Lab are implemented back into the classroom in order to teach more advanced concepts in course systems to enhance Penn State courses and accessibility, security, performance, reducing costs and increasing quality of what we can deliver. And in the community more broadly, people are starting to use HAX for other purposes. I have tried to describe this for a long time, and I think the best way to do it is with a spiral. So the spiral started here around 2022 with Jimmy. Hey, you're coming up on the next slide, bud, so get ready to unmute. So students learn a thing and they become contributors. Those contributions help enhance the web. Students then learn via those past contributions. So we start spiraling up because we're taking the prior creative efforts and we're rolling them into the classroom. And so that every time I teach this class, it gets a little bit wider as far as how big a scale and scope of a thing we can do and what the contribution ends up being. This is an endless machine of community growth and support. We need young, passionate contributors to sustain open source. I don't know if you've met college students, but they meet those qualifications rather succinctly. Past students mentor future students, and future students end up entering the industry with experience that they can take with them, but also with these skills to help our community while they're here. And by community, I mean both HAX and Penn State. So with that, got a story 0. Jimmy, would you mind unmuting?
Sure.
So this is Jimmy Kane. Jimmy unknowingly had me stumble upon this story. And so we stumbled upon this story while building HAX 9.0. And I gave a design challenge to a group of independent study students, which Jimmy definitely ran with and was a lead on. And the challenge was our dashboard sucked. I mean, it was just objectively horrible. Now, the thing made here is video game land, and like it's nowhere near what I just showed for sure. But my challenge was, let's make web development feel like playing a video game. It needs to be easy. It needs to make me think simplistic. And 8-bit and the characters that we now use that come from this initiative came out of that. So Jimmy, do you want to describe what you worked on while you were in HAX Lab? What we now call HAX Lab. We didn't call it HAX Lab at the time.
Yeah, sure. So what you see is this dashboard right here. But the really cool part was it was just a one semester that we took an idea, drawed it out in Figma, created the 8-bit characters from scratch. Shout out Elizabeth. She made a bunch of variations for it, to an actual working idea within 16 weeks. And the group there was 4 of us that we were all split apart. Some of us worked on like the background. We had to make a bunch of components that you see on that screen, to having to make some CLI updates, network calls, all of it. I'll move on to the next one. What did I learn from it?
Yeah. I mean, so that's what you made. What did you like? Why was this different than anything else you were doing?
Because everything that I was going into the UX, UI design major that Penn State has. So it was a lot of foundational user research design, which is what a major part of my degree was in. But the part that it lacked was the actual applying that knowledge of, hey, I know these design best practices. I can make it in Figma, but how do I actually apply that and make it into an actual product that would be used? And the cool part with this also is that Bryan very much wanted us to keep in mind mobile as well. So a lot of the web design that I did in IST 256 was for a desktop web page. But what happens when we switch to an iPad or an iPhone where the screen size radically changes? That was a constraint that I've never had to actually apply before. So as much as it was really easy, like, oh, I can make the desktop work. As soon as I went to like a 13-inch laptop instead of my 15-inch MacBook I had, or a 6-inch iPhone, how do I still make a UI that flows correctly.
And Jimmy, I might be skipping ahead, but did this somehow translate to your career advancement as to why you would care about mobile development all of a sudden?
Because I'm a mobile iOS engineer at Ford Motor Credit Company. So even though
What?
even though I may not be in JavaScript land, even though I'm not in JavaScript land, I'm in Swift land now. It still applies the same because Swift works both on MacBooks as well as iOS. So even though it was not a direct translate, the principles still apply the same.
Well, thank you, Jimmy, for kicking all of this off.
No problem.
It has been an awesome process, and now you get to see everybody else has been involved. So this took place in the spring of 2022. I had Jimmy in class in fall of 21. I believe also you were in a class in spring of 22 as well.
Yep, took you twice.
So and there were some other people that worked on this as well, but starting in fall of 22, then I noticed this and went, wow, that just sort of organically happened. What if I did this on purpose? And so what I did was I started to add a project into class where we were trying to intentionally replicate things that we saw out in the wild. And so in this case, this is just a real basic example. And by basic, I mean like this was a end project to basically replicate this little playground and learning tool that Google had. And students are learning how to develop code and push it out to Vercel, do automated deployments, work on web components. They're learning modern front-end approaches, all things that they need as part of this class. But so this was a really cool project, but it wasn't actually directly useful to HAX. But it did teach me a lot about what new developers stumble on. So then I started to turn this kind of, I don't know, camera inward. Like, okay, what happens if we try to clone university styles and designs? So we had students attempt to match institutional styling and branding, but turn it into web components. So it could be componentized to move and build new sites off of this, as opposed to having to do generic CSS, HTML, JavaScript every time. So again, it was still learned by reverse engineering. I would often combine and fork solutions. We give feedback in class, but it was still applying to a real problem we had. So this set the basis for our entire design system so that we look PSU-esque in our system implementations. Now, Keith and Zach were not able to join us, but Keith then took this class project and turned it into our design system. So HAX looks really well put together by reverse engineering things that were well put together. Students developed the entire thing end to end. Zach got to work on that in class, but then also on an AI proof of concept. Then in his spare time, he just went, it'd be really cool if while I'm making this, that the command line tools could audit and tell me what was wrong as far as it not being compliant with DDD or our design system. So this was not part of class. This was an organic contribution that showed up one day. I'm teaching classes, like in the first 3 weeks, I see this pull request from a former student. I go, oh my God, now this is going to be part of the class, because we were teaching students about design systems and they're using modern front-end tools with HAX. So then they could audit their creations to understand when they're out of sync with the design system. Ashley, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So Ashley got to experience this in 2024. So Ashley worked on the prototype that Jimmy and team worked on, and it reimagined it entirely so that it could be accounting for the directions that we were going. We had grown out of the shell of this fun 8-bit art style, and we needed something that felt more professional. So it was a big first step towards this with HAX 25, which is what we just released. I think that was January. So this, at the time, prior to yesterday, was the biggest release we ever had. So, Ashley, are you like a hardcore coding person?
Absolutely not.
So how did class connect coding to design? Because I know that you are much more HCI focused.
So I had actually gone into this class with no prior coding experience other than like the Java class, the entry Java class that you take. I was extremely nervous, and you took a poll on us in the beginning of the semester, basically being like, do you think you're going to drown in this class? Do you think you're okay in this class? Or do you think you're going to be like great, amazing? You're going to ace everything. I put that I was drowning. I was very terrified to take the course because I was not confident in myself to basically learn development, especially like web development. And so taking the class gave me the language to be able to do that and to be able to transform the designs that I was imagining in my head digitally into web development. And it taught me to have confidence in myself and to trust what I was doing in myself and how I wanted to kind of translate these things. And I think the biggest thing that I learned in the class was being able to like critically think. And not everybody's going to have the answers, and sometimes I'm not going to have the answers, but am I able to go to the right sources to be able to find them? And a big thing that we did was like doing group work. We were always like, group work was very harped upon. It was like a good thing that you were asking your peers, hey, how are you working on this? Maybe we can work together on this. And as a result, not only did I gain confidence in this space, but also like I developed some of the best relationships in my life currently because of it. I think I have a great relationship with Bryan. We have a very much mentor-mentee relationship. I met one of my best friends in that class too, who taught me a lot and taught me to be confident in the space as well. And so, yeah, I'd say that this class gave me a lot, as well as the internship. So
you're just like you're knocking it out of the park, Ashley. So thank you. Your contributions have been amazing over the years, and you really changed my definition of who I was seeking out to work with in this space. Because I initially went into this going like, I need like crazy hardcore coders. And then what it turned out was I need empathetic design people that can think and code, which is AI first, to be perfectly honest. Thank you, Ashley.
thank you.
This led into Site Dashboard 3.0, which I just showed a moment ago. This is Chloe was not able to be with us today, but she really took this and ran with it the last 5 months on an internship. Alyssa, who is here, worked on a lot of palette color combination work, design thinking for our admin panel. And then Winston made a lot of the reusability aspects and CLI we'll talk about in a moment. So Alyssa, are you there? Issues with my audio. All right, I'm gonna move on to Winston for a second, and then when your audio works, we'll come back to you. All right, Winston, you there?
Did my mic not pick it up? I said, yeah, I am.
There you go. All right. So Winston took my class in 2024. He made 3 institutional level designs in 2024. He built our CLI. He worked on the way that we can transport these things back and forth. And he had a 1 semester project each time this happened. So Winston started enhancing our developer experience so that all the other students that we've talked to or would talk to going forward can start at a earlier point in time in their journey, which leads into the International Student Portfolio Project. So Jenny, are you there?
Yep.
Would you mind describing the importance of the International Student Portfolio Project and a bit about what it is?
Sure. So, like many universities here at Penn State, international students, form a really important part of, our portfolio of work across colleges, across levels, and, oftentimes are overlooked, some of their unique needs at the student affairs level. And so the International Student Checkup is a pilot project that we started doing that really focuses on multi-tiers of support for international students. And one of the concerns in working with that population is finding ways to have them be able to integrate a lot of really unique, diverse experiences, but also be able to collate information in a way that advisors and people working with the students can apply that information and also have it be portable, right, across different experiences and across different institutions. So my connection on this particular project was we wanted to develop a portable, open electronic portfolio for the students that would allow them an opportunity to be able to go through our program where we encourage them to, form an electronic portfolio and then share with their advisor. So it's a form of, it's kind of like a multi-pronged sort of intervention to support the students and the faculty at the same time.
Right. And so what was your working relationship with Winston like? How did HAX make this possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really fantastic. I mean, as a faculty member, I've worked with students in a lot of different capacities as, both the mentor and hiring them to do different types of work. I think, working with students in this capacity is fundamentally different because it's more of a paired sort of learning experience. So I was able to work with Winston, from the start and talk about kind of design objectives, what we needed to do, the population. And what's really great about it is because it's really employing students to work on problems for other students. So I don't have to sit there and convince anybody that this is an important project. They get it right away. And in a lot of ways, I think, I have been able to, not just across with this project, but with other projects as well, kind of do my own little bit of marketing research about the solutions we're developing. It's kind of fun.
And Winston, what did a typical week look like for you as far as working with HAX Lab, with Jenny, check-ins, things like that?
Yeah, it was a really amazing experience, really flexible. And usually how we structured it is me and the other interns would work with Bryan in person about 3 times per week. And I found it was really effective to focus those as design days. And then any other days throughout the week, I'd work more on implementation. As they've been talking with the different AI native tools, a lot of times now, the implementation isn't always the most difficult part. Is thinking out the user flows, all the different experiences, and considering areas where, as a developer, you might have a little bit of tunnel vision compared to people that are coming into the tool at the first time. So I found it to be like each week, really focusing on that design aspect allowed us to make the most productive tools. And similarly with how ISP enhanced HAX, I found that it was really good for having a real world problem to help motivate a lot of new features. For example, with the site skeleton on the past slide, that was entirely motivated by thinking, how could we make a core system that is really reusable for not just the student portfolios, but any other sort of site template as well. And that turned into a whole system that you can now template any kind of site. And then similarly, we worked on a lot of new web components for different aspects of student education. Things like building a bibliography out of web components or building a whole career timeline, a little bit similar to LinkedIn through web components. And with those, we were able to see just how far HAX moved in only a year. A lot of new features allow you to directly edit content in line instead of needing to use the menu. And it was really amazing to see just how many new robust systems there were to improve the user experience.
And so you've been with me for 2 years. How has this impacted your career as you're about to go off to the real world?
Yeah, I think I could say that HAX was one of the single most impactful things for my career. Before I took your class and before I started getting involved with HAX Lab, programming didn't actually click with me. I found that not just with the tools, but also 2 big mindset shifts were what really let my career take off in its trajectory. So like a lot of classes in Penn State IST beforehand, you used Zybooks for everything. There wasn't, as Ashley said, a lot of very hands-on insight into how you can apply these different concepts you're learning into class. And then with your class, I was able to see, oh, hey, I'm not stuck with just these online coursewares or textbooks that might not explain the full picture of how to do all this different kind of work. And then with your class, it was diving into the deep end a bit, but then I was able to see there's all these rich sources of documentation, all this open source knowledge online. And that's when it really clicked that, hey, I'm able to learn all these things and help other people learn them as well. It was also really great being able to see some impact with my different contributions. For example, when I first took the class, we didn't have the HAX CLI. it was the original tool for web components called OpenWC. And then the semester after I worked on the HAX CLI, I TA'd for your class again. And then I was able to see just how much it shifted the student perspective. And so all this knowledge has really carried over to nearly every position I've had, whether internships at Comcast and NASA. And now that I'm graduating, I'm going into a site reliability position at IBM. And it's been really great to see just how far web development can range as a topic. A lot of people just think of front end, but then I was able to work on all this different command line tooling to enhance the developer experience, this whole skeleton system that's going to be in the back end, and a lot more.
Thank you, Winston. It's been incredible, the work that you've done. And I'm glad that we've been able to connect, and we're still going to keep working together. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a requirement.
Definitely.
I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit here just to make sure with time. Dave will fit you in the Q&A section. Bill, if you wanna jump on and describe why is this sound practice as far as what we're describing being possible?
Yeah. Good morning, all. I'll try to cram this in here. So, instructional designers, they love to convey learning theory to people that really, like, leave me alone. I don't want to know this stuff. And so you're like that guy at the dinner party, So I know we're all familiar with the idea of an apprenticeship. And that notion of a traditional apprenticeship was for a very long time the natural way that people learned. And so you had an arrangement where a master would show an apprentice how to create a product or complete a series of tasks and demonstrate tools and techniques and processes along the way, and all while creating something of value. So the master then would observe as the apprentice practices and does a lot of guiding and coaching to shape those skills, and also initially provides a lot of structure and support, and then reduces that assistance as the apprentice gains mastery. So the goal is that the apprentice becomes proficient and can work independently. So in modern times, though, with our shift to formal classroom schooling, some of this has been lost. And one key thing that's been lost is that there's not really been that much attention paid to the reasoning and strategies that experts employ when they bring their knowledge and skills to bear on complex real-world problems. And so as a result, the conceptual and problem-solving skills that students have gained kind of remain inert. They don't really have enough opportunities to use it and apply it and refine it. And so that said, the one major difference between the traditional apprenticeship and what's called a cognitive apprenticeship is, between that and schooling, is that in apprenticeship, the processes of the activity are usually very readily observable. And whereas in schooling, the processes of thinking are really largely invisible, both to the students and to the teacher. And so a cognitive apprenticeship, which I think the SIIP experience from end to end just really perfectly personifies, is a cognitive apprenticeship is really a model of instruction that works to make expert and student thinking much more visible. Let's go to the other slide, and I'll try to be brief. So just comparing these to see how all this aligns with our SIIP approach. Let's start with the four important aspects of a traditional apprenticeship, where you have modeling, scaffolding, fading, and coaching. And so in modeling, the apprentice is observing the master demonstrating how to do different parts of the task while listening to his or her explanations. Scaffolding is any support that the master gives to an apprentice in carrying out a task. So in the old world, that might have been, working with easier materials first, or merely finishing a task that the master's already started. And then fading takes place whenever the master sees that the apprentice no longer needs that support. Coaching is the most complex activity, but it's also the most valuable activity in the whole apprenticeship experience. And there's a wide variety of coaching activity that takes place. So everything from task selection and sequencing to providing hints and scaffolding, evaluating the apprentice's approach and diagnosing problems, giving feedback, identifying and strengthening weaknesses, increasing the level of challenge over time and offering encouragement along the way. And so all four of those aspects need to be present in a traditional apprenticeship when somebody's making something concrete and physical. But you can see here that the middle column looks different. And the 4 aspects that we just talked about are also present in a cognitive apprenticeship. They just aren't shown. What's shown here is some of the differences and some implications. So compared with a traditional apprenticeship, there's a greater need for deliberately surfacing this expert thinking to make it visible. So not just what did you do, but why did you do it? And likewise, the student's reasoning has to be really made a lot more visible too. And that's the most important difference between a traditional apprenticeship and a cognitive apprenticeship. Cognitive is very dialogical. In a traditional, the learning is completely situated in the workplace already. So the challenge is to situate these kind of abstract tasks in an academic setting, classroom learning into real life context. And so I just think that certainly contributing to the HAX platform itself and extending the capabilities and meeting the needs of real users is highly relevant. It's very motivating. It's rewarding. Students talked about that today. And so in terms of having an authentic context, I think it really rings the bell. And I won't expand on that last column. I think it's mostly self-explanatory as far as everything you've heard today just matches perfectly. It brings everything that's in a traditional apprenticeship and a cognitive apprenticeship to bear in this pipeline that we've developed. And just as a final thought, there is kind of a meta level to this. There's this observation or this interplay between observing and scaffolding and increasingly independent practice that really helps students to grow in a couple of ways that they've articulated today. One is they develop stronger self-monitoring and their own kind of correction strategies that are independent. And a second is integrating skills and conceptual knowledge needed to advance towards expertise. So if you will, the inner spiral. And that is kind of the formal support. I want to reserve some time. So back to the master, Bryan Ollendyke.
So some last minute wrap up for Q&A. So some lessons learned from SIIP. The biggest gains usually came 6 to 12 months after taking the class. The class worked the best when the first 40% was front-loaded skilling up, basically setting the foundation for how to become a contributor. This is all while still meeting the objectives of the course. Then adding a simple project that wasn't community related, removing scaffolding, slightly larger in scope, and then at the end, treating it almost like it's an internship. There's no scaffolding. The assumption is you're doing all the things we have previously. Also, whiteboards and collaboration make all the difference. So when learning leaves the classroom as well as another big takeaway, we're seeing major contributions by aligning students' club and organization interests outside of class with the community. So it's as if they get the skills, learn about the community in class, maybe they participate in an internship, but aligning it with other things where they have interest areas is really paying dividends. Then HAX is always a backdrop. There isn't a class like IST 256 is not HAX class. It's just, hey, we're going to learn modern front-end web development, which is what this course is about. And you're going to use HAX and we're going to use design systems. We're going to learn design systems, but we're going to use this one. And then when there's an issue in the documentation in either of those cases, that immediately leads to a contribution opportunity. Fixing the community's docs is part of the class experience and onboarding. So also incentives, work experience, LinkedIn exposure. I constantly post what people are working on and tag them, class credits, independent studies gets you credits. We have internship requirements in IST at 240 hours that you can meet. Recognition online, community roles, right? These are all ways that we can help expand and integrate the student community with the HAX community in this case. So applying to your context, this isn't just a HAX thing, but work with faculty to align courses and course projects with open source project needs. So think of the underlying skills needed to become a great contributor to your community. And then if we're putting that at the front load of a course, or there's a club, or there's an onboarding event, we're trying to act like those students are junior developers and future contributors. Marking issues as beginner, new student can really help with that onboarding process as well. And if AI can install your project and learn from your docs, that likely means a junior developer can too. So solve problems at your institution in its context, and these contributions help lead to larger space issues being solved as well. So with that, I do want to open up time for questions, discussion. We can get to Dave's AI demo if that's where we want conversation to go. Sorry, Dave, I bumped you there.
We have about 3 minutes left. So we can take a couple questions, or we can go ahead and dive into the demo if you want to fit that in before we wrap up.
Dave, you want to jump into the demo and I'll read questions here as they come up? If they do.
Sure. Can you make me presenter?
I was trying to make presenter. There you go, bud.
I will make this super, super quick. Okay, so real quickly, so the interesting thing and the reason why I was able and we were able to build this was through this the CLI that Winston was talking about. And so very quickly, this was a collaborative project that was done through the collaboration of about 7 or 8 students. And some of them were, Bryan was talking about the internship requirement, and some of them was through a grant that I was able to secure. So very quickly, the idea with this tool that I posted in the chat earlier was that you can take a Canvas course number here. When you install and run this program, what it will do is it will make sure you have all the required background code that you need to run. You do not need to be a coder to run this, but it will do all of that for you. But you need to install a few packages. It will leverage your Canvas URL and a token that you'll have to set up. We have just started using Nebula One, which we're calling AI Studio, but you can also use direct API keys with this. And then what you can do is plug in your Canvas course ID and select your AI provider. And what this does, it takes about, well, it depends on your course. Let's just say it takes 10 minutes to run. The end result is it will generate a series of reports for you, and it does 2 things. It does an AI readiness evaluation of the course, both from a how well are the assignments, et cetera, leveraging AI, and then the second one is how easy could a student cheat using AI in order to complete these particular assignments. And again, this is all on the repo that I posted, but there are several different reports that you can check out that it does for you. You can look at the content itself and find out exactly what the AI tool used or did in order to make the new site, which ends up landing here. So in the end, the whole pipeline does from beginning to end, takes a Canvas course, runs it through an AI analysis tool, and then on the other side, it fires up a live HAX site with the modified content from the original course itself. So again, does all of that for you. The repo is posted in the chat, but you're welcome to reach out to ask me any questions. How is that for speed?
That was pretty speedy, Dave. I mean, it's a transformational product application. I mean, it's just crazy what's possible because of the CLI. And then you could take that Canvas inspired space and then pull it down locally, remix it, throw it up, publish it somewhere else very rapidly. So
we are out of time, but that was a tremendously great presentation. It was so wonderful to hear from all the students and what you've gained through this whole process. It's really a success story that I think a lot of projects would love to replicate. So thank you so much for sharing. I know we didn't have a lot of time for questions, but if you didn't catch it already, there's a link to the Discord in chat. So if you have questions for any of our presenters, you can catch them there. Once again, thank you so much. And everyone who attended, please share the recording with your friends once it's out. I'm sure others will find this of interest as well. So thank you again, and I hope you'll join us next month for our next microconference. Have a great day.